Welcome to YouTube channel Knowledge Base. This is Suresh Venkat, connecting world with innovative experts. Today our guest of honor is Mr. K. Pradeep, who comes with more than 30 years of experience in legal field. Mr. Pradeep graduated in law from Madras Law College in 1988, then practiced law in Madras High Court for close to 10 years. Then he moved to corporate world and worked in legal departments. Currently, he is associated with automobile manufacturing company as AGM Legal. Mr. Pradeep has co-authored book on arbitration, and he has also been a guest faculty teaching law with Madras School of Social Work, as well as Loyola Institute of Business Administration. Long before the advent of internet, Mr. Pradeep used to write articles in national newspapers like Indian Express and Hindu. Welcome, Mr. K. Pradeep. Today is going to talk on arbitration. Welcome, Mr. Pradeep.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Suresh.
Yeah.
Good afternoon to all. I would like to thank Mr. Suresh Venkat for having given an opportunity to speak on a subject which is close to my heart, called arbitration. What is arbitration?
My pleasure, Pradeep. Yeah.
Thank you. What is arbitration? Arbitration is submission of disputes for resolution to a private unofficial person selected in a manner either provided by law or by agreement between parties. Meaning to say that parties can agree on the candidature of arbitrator. Failing to agree, either of the parties can go to court and secure an appointment made by the court. When I say court here, I mean only the High Court. No court inferior to High Court can entertain applications for appointment of an arbitrator. See, the first Arbitration Act law came into India in 1899, passed by the British India. Then 1940 Act came into being by repealing 1899 Act. This too was passed by British India. Independent India enacted a law called Arbitration and Conciliation Act in 1996. Many people ask, is an arbitrator judge? See, according to me, arbitrator is not a judge, but judge-like. His decision is not a judgment, but judgment-like. Meaning to say that the decision of the arbitrator is called award, which has the trappings of a civil court decree. The party who has obtained the decree can enforce it as if it is a civil court decree. On the same hand, likewise, if the party assailing the arbitration award can also go to a court, considering the award as a decree of a civil court. So this is what arbitration law contemplates. So, judicial intervention is very much limited. That I must say. Judicial intervention, that means no court can grant injunction either against commencement of arbitration or progress of arbitration. So virtually the courts cannot sit in judgment over the progress of arbitration. No court can grant injunction. No court can. This is the biggest advantage because judicial intervention is very much limited. Where it is possible for court to enter only, the court will interfere. Failing which, as a matter of rule, judicial intervention is very restricted. Arbitration agreement. See, the arbitration agreement can either be in the form of a clause in the principal agreement or a separate exhaustive omnibus arbitration agreement between parties. The beauty behind this is arbitrator is bound by the agreement, arbitration agreement, not signed by him. Have you come across any case that a person not signing an agreement is bound by it? In arbitration, it is there. Arbitrator should go by the contract between the parties. So he might not have signed the arbitration agreement as an arbitrator, but the terms and conditions agreed to between parties bind the arbitrator and he gets jurisdiction. Interim orders. The court can pass interim orders prior to commencement of arbitration. Hitherto the law was different. The courts can pass interim orders either prior to or during the progress till the award is enforced. The law underwent a sea change in 2015 and 2019, which says that a court can grant interim orders only prior to commencement of arbitration and not later to it. So the same powers are given to arbitrator. Arbitrator can also pass interim orders, such as attachment before judgment, garnishee order, furnishing security, preserving the property in dispute, and whatnot. All these interim leaves can be granted by the arbitrator himself. You may ask me how many arbitrators should be there for any case. The law prescribes that the number of arbitrators should be odd in number, not even. For the simple reason, when the arbitration is being held by two arbitrators and each of them decide a dispute in different way, which award becomes enforceable, which award becomes saleable is a ₹1,000,000 question. So that is why arbitration is being held by a sole arbitrator, or maybe 3 or 5. 5 is very rare. 1 or 3 is common. Challenge to appointment of arbitrator. See, the party participating in arbitration can challenge the candidature of the arbitrator on the ground that he does not possess qualification to officiate as arbitrator, or on the ground that he becomes incapacitated either by law or by fact to officiate as an arbitrator. So challenge, but these grounds have to be raised before the arbitrator himself. Arbitrator has got power to rule on his own challenge, or rather challenge made against him. So once the arbitrator rules on his challenge in the negative, then the party can challenge that order only while after decree award is passed, not prior to that. Not prior to that. So as I told you that like challenging the appointment candidature for arbitrator, there is a provision in law for challenging the jurisdiction of arbitrator also. The stating that the agreement is not arbitrable, or it is outside the scope of reference, and several. Just like the challenge procedure can be decided by the arbitrator himself, even his jurisdiction he can do in his own favor. He will not say, invariably he will not say. If he says, there's a provision for that. But if he says he has jurisdiction, he takes the reference on file, arbitral reference on file, and proceeds with the arbitration. Termination. You may ask me, when can arbitrator be terminated or substituted? See, when both the parties agree for appointment of an arbitrator, both the parties agree for termination of the arbitrator also. They agree first in the beginning to appoint an arbitrator. Later on, going by the progress of the case or by the ineptness of the arbitrator, the parties can terminate his mandate and make a fresh reference to a new arbitrator who can proceed either from the place, a stage which was left behind by his predecessor, or he can conduct a de novo case, meaning to say from the beginning. There are two magnum opus laws in India, Civil Procedure Code and Indian Evidence Act. The rigmaroles of Civil Procedure Code and the rigmaroles of Indian Evidence Act are not applicable to arbitration. By this, I don't mean that arbitrator can act whimsically. He should observe the principles of natural justice, equity, and fair play and proceed with the case without applying CPC and Evidence Act. The convention is that the arbitrator will decide the dispute based on the documents available before him. He may hear the witness, or he may go by the pleadings and decide a case. So these two laws are not applicable to arbitration. Place of arbitration. See, the parties themselves can agree as to which place is suitable for conducting arbitration. In an agreement, either Bombay or Calcutta. If it is either Mumbai, then arbitration should be held in Mumbai. The parties can agree, but where the place of arbitration is. This is slightly different from jurisdiction of the courts. The parties by themselves cannot confer jurisdiction on a court by which it itself does not have. Which by itself does not have. The parties cannot confer jurisdiction on court which by itself does not have. But in arbitration, if both the parties are Chennai, the seat of arbitration can be Bangalore. The seat of arbitration can be Mumbai. So there is no restriction. The seat otherwise is called place. And it is now the law has evolved that seat confers the jurisdiction on the court also. Where the arbitration is held, the courts exercising jurisdiction over such tribunal will get jurisdiction to proceed with any order in the arbitration law. Pleadings. See, there are pleadings before the arbitrator, claim statement and defense statement. These two are principal pleadings. What is a pleading? Pleading is a fact put in narration, in written and submitted. It must be very narrative. Narrative in writing and submit to the arbitrator, confining to points of law, points of fact. So this is claim statement and defense statement also. They counter all the allegations made by the claimant. And there is yet another procedure called rejoinder and surrejoinder. So, but those two are not considered as pleadings under the arbitration law. Under the arbitration law, pleadings mean only the claim statement and the defense statement. Does not include any rejoinders, surrejoinders, and other things. Expert. Can arbitrator appoint an expert? You may ask. Yes, when arbitration is being held by a technical person, say engineer, and if any intricate issues of law is raised before him, he can appoint an expert. He can appoint a lawyer to opine on such a contentious issues raised by the parties. So just like courts have amicus curiae. Amicus curiae is a friend of court who assists the court. When the courts themselves are being assisted by a counsel, even arbitration also, in arbitration also, the arbitrator can summon or can issue any proceedings to an expert, ask him to give an opinion on the legal point. And if possible, he can also be brought in for facing trial, for examining as to how and what points he has considered while coming to this conclusion. So this is, arbitrator has got power to appoint an expert. But arbitrator cannot examine the witness. This is a very strange case, according to me. This needs an amendment again. See, when arbitrators can examine the parties, say claimant and respondent, why not their witnesses? So the arbitration law does not say that the witnesses of claimant and respondent can also be summoned before the arbitrator for evidence. So what is the way out in such a catch-22 situation? The arbitrator has to go to court, or a party with the consent of arbitrator should go to court and say, these are the persons in the trial of the arbitral reference. So though the arbitrator has got power to appoint an expert, he does not have power to examine the witness. So this is not correct actually. When he has got power to appoint an expert who is totally a stranger, why not the witnesses of the claimant and defendant who have the knowledge of facts of the case? Place of arbitration, as I told you earlier. Language of arbitration. See, the parties can agree as to what can be the language of arbitration. If the parties agree that the arbitration language must be in English, then any document filed in vernacular language other than English, say Tamil or Telugu, they have to be translated and filed before the arbitrator. So once the parties agree on the, not only on agree, as I told you from the beginning, it is a creation of contract. If the parties agree that the arbitration should be held only in English language, and the arbitrator has to conduct it in English language, and the parties also should conduct in English language, any vernacular documents being produced should be translated to English and submit to the arbitrator. Contempt power. You may ask me whether arbitrator has got power of contempt, just like courts have. Yes, arbitrators too have contempt power. They can pull up for flouting his orders. If the parties flout the orders of an arbitrator, arbitrator can pull them up for contempt. They become contemnars. Once he does not obey the order, he becomes contemnar. It could be either interim order or what. But what is that? How to proceed for contempt by the arbitrator? He can only go to court. He cannot issue any contempt notice. He can make a representation to the court highlighting that the contemnar's conduct and say that he has not obliged the orders or he has not participated in arbitration, so he should be proceeded for contempt. The court will hear him and pass an order either to punish him or to set him free. Time limit. So you may ask me within what time the arbitration should get concluded. See, hitherto the law was different. Now the law underwent a sea change in 2015, which says that an arbitration award must be passed within 12 months from the date of completion of pleadings. And pleadings must be filed within 6 months from the date of constitution of arbitral tribunal. So this is how the present law says. 12 months from the date of completion of pleadings, and pleadings must be completed within 6 months from the date of appointment of an arbitrator. So likewise, the respondent, pleadings means claim statement and defense statement. Actually, it is not clear whether the law says that even rejoinder and surrejoinders can be construed as a pleading. But it confines only to claim statement and defense statement under the arbitration law. Settlement. See, it is not incompatible with an arbitration agreement for an arbitrator to settle the dispute by encouraging settlement process in the form of conciliation or negotiation or mediation. In fact, it is a duty on the part of arbitrator when he enters the reference or during the progress of the case, he should ask either of the parties or both the parties rather to come for settlement. When both the parties agree, then the award will be passed based on their consent. So it is not incompatible with an arbitration agreement for an arbitrator to promote settlement of disputes, which of course all arbitrators do. Costs. You may ask me, is arbitration very expensive? I don't say yes, because the main costs in the form of court fees, you need not pay. Whereas when you are going to a civil court for a right, you need to pay court fee, which is computed on the claim made by you. So it varies from court to court. But here in arbitration, the cost, no court fee is there. Cost means only the leading charges and the professional charges of the arbitrator. These are the costs. See, prior to the advent of new law, the parties can agree on the costs. But now, when the law underwent a change in 2015, parties cannot agree on costs. Costs should be levied by the arbitrator as per his discretion, either to direct one party to bear or both the parties to bear and such things. So that means the parties cannot agree on costs, agree on costs. Lien on award. According to me, this is the very biggest advantage that is given to arbitrators. What do you mean by lien? Lien means controlling, holding over a property. So when an arbitrator passes an award, and if he makes a claim for his fees, if the parties don't make payment of his fees, arbitrator exercises a lien on award and refuse to give a copy of the award to the party. Can the court do like that? The court cannot do like that. The court is bound to give it the judgment and hand over the copies. Whereas arbitrator can say, you pay me my dues, my fees and costs, then collect the award. So he exercises a lien on award. And the party who is seeking such an award copy must go to court and deposit the same fees with the court and get the award from the arbitrator. The court will in turn return the amount to the arbitrator. Then arbitration agreements are not discharged by death of parties. If two parties appoint an arbitrator, if one of the parties dies, then the case will proceed against the legal representatives, surviving legal representatives of the deceased. But whereas when the arbitrator dies, then the mandate gets terminated. And new arbitrator has to be appointed in the same manner as if the predecessor was appointed. And Arbitration Council of India, this is another biggest advantage that was brought into by the law. It is yet to be constituted so far. See, the principal function of the Arbitration Council of India is to grade arbitral institutions in the country. There are several arbitral institutions like Indian Council of Arbitration, Madras Chamber of Commerce, Mani Palkiwala Arbitration Center, Bombay Chamber of Commerce, Sinica. So there are several institutions which are progressing with arbitration. But those institutes must be graded by the Arbitration Council of India. And the Arbitration Council of India, once after grading the institutes, submit the graded institutes to the High Court. So that High Court will refer the cases to such an institute graded by the ACA. It has not come into being, but it will take a long time. Maybe by the close of this year, the Arbitration Council of India is expected to be set up and constituted.
So in arbitration proceedings, should lawyer represent parties to dispute, or parties themselves can argue in person?
The parties themselves can argue. When a party can argue in person before a civil court, nothing prevents him from arguing a case before an unofficial person who is an arbitrator.
Okay.
As I told you, the arbitrator is an unofficial person.
Okay.
So when the parties can present the case by themselves to court, they can also present the case by themselves to the arbitrator. But generally, it is not done to us.
Okay.
Some legal issues are involved. And if the party is not conversant with the points of law, then necessarily they engage a counsel. But it is not a rule that arbitration must have a counsel to represent the parties.
Is award given by arbitrator is challenged in higher courts?
Yes, yes.
If yes, what is the time limit?
Very good question you have asked. See, an award can be challenged within 90 days from the date of passing of the award. And 30 more days are given as grace days to condone delay. So, holistically seen, it is 120 days. From 120 days from the date of passing of an award, it can be enforced. You may ask me, what is the time limit prescribed for assailing the award, for challenging the award? It is 12 years. Whereas for enforcing the award, it is only 120 days. For challenging the award, it is 12 years. Because, as I told you earlier, it is akin to a civil court decree. The civil court decree can be challenged within 12 years only, not beyond that. Same is the case with arbitration also.
Okay. As a lawyer, what benefits you see for a common man in arbitration proceedings compared to civil courts or normal courts? What are the benefits?
Time is the essence. The principal advantage is time. Time is the essence. Courts take their own time. In our country, the judiciary is a slow-moving coach. Ultimately, it resolves the disputes, but not to the extent of speed expected by the parties. Whereas in arbitration, the biggest advantage is within short duration can be completed. And one more thing, under the arbitration law, present law, the arbitration award must be passed within 12 months from the date of completion of pleadings. And pleadings must be completed within 6 months from the date of constitution or appointment of an arbitrator. So time limit is prescribed. Under 1940 law, it is only 4 months' time. Again, according to me, with my interpretation of the provisions of law, this rule is only recommendatory, not mandatory. For the simple reason, when the consequences of not observing the order are given in the act, then it becomes recommendatory, not mandatory. Even civil courts, as per CPC, only 3 adjournments have to be granted. But it is only recommendatory. So many adjournments are getting granted, so many times cases get adjourned. So that is also there in the arbitration. Though arbitration prescribes time limit, this can be considered as an advantage.
Like to add any final comments, Mr. Pradeep?
Final comments, see, today all commercial disputes are being agitated in the form of arbitration. So commercial disputes, disputes including involving banks are submitted to arbitration. Arbitration is gaining currency all over the world, not only in India. In fact, in Western countries, the law has evolved so fast and highly progressive. Here, it is not such, but still, the parties can always go for arbitration to have the dispute instead of going to a civil court. Considering the time factor, that he gets an award within 12 months, but which leverage is not given to him to extract from court.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Pradeep, for spending your valuable time on a weekend and sharing your knowledge, experience. Really, thank you, Mr. Pradeep. Thanks a lot.
Welcome, Mr.
Thank you.
I am pleased. Welcome.
Thank you.